This is Real Truth Defined, and I come to you today somewhat of a heavy heart, just because of recent events, and I can't even begin to gain any type of understanding how things have not changed. Um, we'll be right back, and I'll share with you what I'm talking about.
Lift your voice, let the heavens resound. Truth is alive, let His glory abound. Dancing in light, no fear left behind.
So before we can get into current, we have to go back and look at the history. And because history most times is very important because it shows how far you either progress or that you stay the same. And we see with recent events that not much has changed. So I want to show you this gentleman here and see if any of you really know your history. This is 14-year-old George Stinney. 14-year-old George Stinney. In Columbia, South Carolina, back in March 1944, two white girls were murdered. One was 11, the other one was 7. 11-year-old Betty June Binnicker, 7-year-old Mary Emma Thames. They were found murdered. People reported that George Stinney was the last person seen, or that he had spoken to these girls sometime earlier that day, whatever. And because of that report, the police focused on George Stinney. He was arrested, separated from his family, interrogated. We're talking 1944. Family wasn't allowed to be in the interrogation. He had no representation. So, of course, reportedly, he confessed to killing these two girls. This was in March 1944. On April 24th, maybe just a month, less than a month later, he was on trial for murder. The trial only lasted a few hours. Of course, the jury at that time was all white. The defense put on hardly any evidence, and they called no witnesses. The all-white jury deliberated for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Came back guilty. 53 days later, on June 16th, 14-year-old George Stinney was executed in the electric chair. The youngest person ever to be executed in the 20th century. 14. Where did this take place? Columbia, South Carolina. He has since been vindicated of these murders, but what good did that do George Stinney? What good does a vindication now do for a 14-year-old boy scared out of his life, out of his mind, because he's being accused of something he did not do? Not only is he being accused, he's being interrogated by grown men who, I'm sure during that time, used some type of force to coerce him to confess to to murders he did not commit. Now he's in an adult jail, adult prison, and just 53 days later, after this bogus trial, he's executed in the electric chair at 14. Let's fast forward 78 years, 11 months, and 12 days. Let me say that again. Let's fast forward 78 years, 11 months, and 12 days to May 28th, 2023. and we see this young man, Cyrus Belton, in Columbia, South Carolina, who was thought to have stolen a 98-cent bottle of water from a gas station convenience store. He was thought to have stolen a bottle of water. He was chased by the owner and the owner's son. He was killed eventually by this man, Chike Rick Chow, who, after chasing him 136 yards, that's the length of a football field, from the end of the goal line of one end to the end of the goal line of the other end, plus an additional 10 yards, is how far they chased this young man. Now, let me give you a little bit of history on Chike Rick Chow and his convenience store gas station. Very sophisticated security system, cameras, multiple locations. And what they would do with this elaborate, sophisticated camera system was that people who were known to steal, shoplift from the store, they would take their picture and then they would post their picture on the wall behind the cash register, somewhere in the vicinity of the cash register, so that if these people were to come back in the store, they could be recognized as someone who shoplifted from this store. Here's my question. Out of all those people on this wall of shame that had shoplifted from the store, how many of those people Rick Chow and his son chase out of the store? How many of them did they chase down to retrieve what was stolen? Or did they simply just put their picture on the wall? Why couldn't they do that for Cyrus Belton? Why couldn't they just put his picture up on the wall of shame and identify him so that the next time he came into the store, they could say, hey, we believe you stole. You're not allowed in our store anymore because we think that you're a thief, even though he wasn't. But why couldn't they simply just put his picture up? What was the need to chase him down for a bottle of water? It reminds me of Trayvon Martin, whose picture I started to put on here. And the only reason why I didn't, because I wanted to show the similarity in the two 14-year-old boys. Trayvon was 17 at the time, and we know that he went to the store, was seen walking in the neighborhood where George Zimmerman thought he didn't belong, and began to chase him. And it's ironic that it was said that this 14-year-old carried a gun. No 14-year-old should not have had a semi-automatic weapon, should not have carried that. I'm not condoning that. But if he had the weapon, and it's reported by the son, Andy Chow, that once they caught him after chasing him 130 yards, the length of that football field, and 10 yards, after catching up to him, Andy Chow reported that Cyrus pointed the weapon at him. And then the father shot Cyrus in defense of his son. Trayvon Martin was followed by George Zimmerman. And after being followed and chased, at some point decided he may have needed to defend himself and was killed for that. And George Zimmerman went free. This 14-year-old boy, if he had pulled the gun, where's the justification? Because it would seem that if you're allowed to shoot me for pointing the gun at your son, why am I not allowed to point the gun in defense that these two grown men are chasing me down because they thought that I stole something? Where is the protection for his life? Why is he not? Why wasn't he allowed to protect himself after being chased 130 yards? If he had a gun, witnesses say that they never saw Cyrus point the weapon. Never saw him point the weapon. The forensic pathologist testified Cyrus was shot in the back. Here is a picture of the prosecutor demonstrating with the forensic pathologist on where the bullet entered into Cyrus Belton's back on an upward transition. What this shows is that Cyrus, according to witnesses, after he fell, was getting up and still trying to move forward. So he was bent over trying to raise himself up to continue running away from these two men. Shot was fired in his back on an upward slope. You can't shoot somebody and claim self-defense if they're running away from you. 78 years, 11 months, 12 days from the day that George Stinney was executed to Cyrus Belton being shot in the back. I was sitting here yesterday because I saw some of the news feeds about the trial and things like that. So I sat here all day yesterday and I was watching some of the things that went on in the trial. And just like watching the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin trial, I'm saying to myself, saying to my wife, there's no way this man could be found not guilty. Absolutely no way. You are the aggressor. You pursued, chased this young man down. And when the young man, not knowing what's going on, decides, hey, maybe I need to defend myself, and you kill him in the act of him defending himself, you get away with murder. Now we fast forward 78 years, 11 months, 12 days. Same cities, Columbia, South Carolina, where George Stinney, falsely accused of murder, executed at 14. Now we fast forward, and this young man's life is taken because they thought he stole a bottle of water. And like I said in the opening, I can't even begin to express the level of frustration that I feel right now. That this could still happen. This was in 2023. Trial just finished. I can't even begin to explain the level of frustration that I have. And how a jury can hear the evidence, look at the video footage, see this young man go, number one, from the time he entered the store, the wife, Alice Child, told him he had to leave his book bag on the ice cream cabinet, which he did. He complied. He walked around the store like people do when they don't know what they want. Just seeing what'll catch my eye. You know how many times I've gone into a store, just going up aisle and aisle and aisle, just to see what would catch my eye. Not that I have a certain desire for anything. I just want to see what's going to catch my eye. And then he goes to the water cabinet, to the cabinet where the water is, opens it up, pulls out 4 bottles of water, then puts them right back, all 4. Turns around to leave, and that's when he's verbally accused of stealing water. And he says, I don't have anything. I don't have any water. I don't have anything. He picks up his book bag, calmly walks out of the store. He didn't rush out. He didn't run out. Calmly walked out of the store. By the time he got to the corner of the end of the building, here comes the father and the son. and they begin to chase him. He runs so quickly, and you can see in the video, witnesses reported what was in his hands. Well, he was holding up with his right hand, he was holding up his pants so they wouldn't fall down. And in his other hand, he had his book bag. He ran so fast, he ran out of one of his sneakers. Left it, didn't turn around to go get it. Now, the son, Andy Child, says that while he was running, he went into his pocket and threw down 2 cell phones. One of the things that I wanted the prosecution to say to the jury in their opening is that you should be people of reason and understanding. You should be people of just basic common sense. If you can see in the video him running, needing to hold up his pants so that he could run, why would he let go of the pants just to go in his pocket and throw down 2 cell phones? No, the cell phones fell out of his pocket as he was running for his life. He ran and tripped over the curb, bruising his shins. Got up, left the book bag, continued to try to get away from the 2 grown men who were chasing him over a bottle of water. And then the son says, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. I believe that when he fell, because you can see when he comes into the store on this sophisticated system that they have, there is a bulge in the hoodie, the front pocket of his hoodie. I believe that was the gun. I believe that after he fell the second time, I believe the gun fell out of that pocket. The son sees it. He's got a gun. He didn't have the gun fell. Either way, you can't justify, well, I guess you can in Columbia, South Carolina. I guess you can justify shooting someone in the back as they're running away from you and then claim self-defense. I can't say that I'm at a loss for words, because if I was at a loss for words, I wouldn't have did this whole broadcast. So it's not that I'm at a loss of words. Again, my frustration level with the jury, with the process, with the lack of regard for the young life of a 14-year-old. Defense wanted to focus on the fact that he was carrying a gun. Shouldn't have been carrying a gun. But he also should not have been chased for a $1 bottle of water. Could have simply put his face on the wall of shame like you did everybody else. You could not have chased him like you didn't chase everybody else. That's on your wall of shame. Is this your practice? Everybody that's on the wall of shame, you chased them down to see where they were going, according to Andy Child, and wanted to see where he was going. You couldn't just put his picture up, marked him. Hey, you can't come in because we thought. And then after that, go back and look and see, well, maybe he didn't really steal anything like we thought. He was innocent. So he's okay to come back into the store. None of that took place. Chased him down, shot him in the back for a bottle of water. 78 years, 11 months, 12 days since the day that George Stinney, this 14-year-old boy, was executed in the electric chair in Columbia, South Carolina, falsely accused of murdering 2 young girls. This young man, Cyrus Belton, chased down, shot in the back for a bottle of water. We got to do better. And we keep saying that. And every time we the corner, every time we think that things they may have gotten somewhat better, we see we're right back at square one. You can be profiled going into a store as a young man, as a young black man. You can be profiled because that's what happened. The lady followed him around the store to see what he was doing. You had other customers that walked in. A young black woman came into the store. She wasn't profiled and followed around. He had another older black gentleman went into the store. And when Cyrus left the store, all three, the mother, the father, and the son, left the store, left the cash register with a customer at the counter, left the entire store to chase a boy that they thought sold a bottle of water. You left your whole store, your cash register unattended. You left the entire store. So you wasn't worried about anybody else stealing while the store's unattended. You wasn't worried about anybody else stealing. Make it make sense, people. Somebody help make this make sense, if you can. Because to me, it makes no sense at all. We're now in 2026. This happened in 2023. And the question that even the prosecutor asked, what is the human life worth? What is a 14-year-old boy's life worth? Was it worth a bottle of water? Now, this man, Rick Chow, this guy right here, gets to go free, gets to resume his life. Will probably open another gas station, convenience store. Will continue to live his life with his family while this young man's life is over. Let's do better, people. Let's just do better.
Lift your voice, let the heavens resound. Truth is alive, let His glory abound.